Here's some lovely pictures of us. So I'm the lead design researcher for the AI and analytics on Z team. Yeah, what does that mean? So basically I'm responsible for engaging with our clients and understanding what their needs are. So how are they using our products? What do they like about them? What do they hate about them? And how can we as a team provide better functionality for them?
And so I am on the offering management side, which means that after Karina has like wonderful conversations, I kind of link together what development is doing and what our clients' wants and needs are and make out an offering for it. But I think we were told to also talk about ourselves.
Yes.
So I graduated college in 2015 from Clarkson University with an undergrad in computer science, and I'm working on my MBA now.
So I went to Syracuse University, graduated in 2017 with a degree in industrial and interaction design and psychology.
Can you speak up a little bit?
More? Okay.
More?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can come forward too.
Oh yeah, that works too. Yes, and I've been at IBM for almost 2 years now.
Yep, and I've been at IBM 4 years, going on my 5th.
Yeah.
My career path was a little different because I came in as an actual developer. I actually started in test rather than development because I was like really unsure what I wanted to do when I got out of college, and so I figured if I was testing, then I would get to know the product, get to understand what it is before I had to develop for it. So I was a tester for about 6 months, then I transitioned into development for about 1.5 years, and then I switched over to offering management. So long story short, your career can change very quickly in very different ways.
I'm not good at yelling.
Yeah, okay, can everyone hear me well?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm a little different from the development and offering management side, so I came in as a user researcher. I don't have a background in tech, so I had to learn a lot about AI, a lot about analytics and data, but it's also not my sole responsibility to understand the technology. It's more about how our clients and users are using it, and then Kelly helps me translate all of that.
Translator.
So
what does our team do? What does our team do?
a lot of things. So our team is fairly new. So we just formed an AI team within IBM Z. So we're about what, like 6 months?
So there's a
young?
huge differentiation too, just to, there's a data and AI group that has existed before us. We are primarily focused on analytics on Z. So it's literally the mainframe, the platform, specifically on Z, whereas data and AI looks at everything else, open source software, and Z, and Linux, and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you basically covered it. But I work with Kelly day in and day out. She's constantly sitting in on my client calls and looking at things from a like technology and business perspective, and we come together and kind of chat about what our clients are saying and how we can deliver good products to them.
I work more with like the development team, understanding what the technology is, what they are planning on releasing, and seeing if like what Karina is telling me from the client side, does that resonate with what our technology is doing, and how does that really affect the business and our messaging really outward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to show you guys a quick video because I'm sure you're sick of hearing people talk.
Let's see if it'll play.
I hope so.
Is your computer playing? Oh, there you go.
The time of spreadsheets is over. A Google search, a passport scan, a barcode reading in a supermarket, your online shopping history, an EKG reading, CCTV footage, a photo of a sandwich, a voice message, a tweet. All of these contain data that can be collected, analyzed, and monetized. Supercomputers and algorithms allow us to make sense of increasingly larger amounts of information in real time. In less than 10 years, CPUs are expected to reach the processing power of the human brain. A survey done by the Global Agenda Council on the future of software in society shows that people expect artificial intelligence machines to be part of a company's board of directors by 2016. There is a good chance that in 15 years, your job is going to be performed by computers, since decisions once based on experience and intuition will be made through machine analysis of massive amounts of data. Think about a vehicle that is able to read its environment and react accordingly. much like a human driver, but also analysing other sources of information that will make the trip safer, faster, and more efficient. Analysing vast amounts of medical data from different locations and demographics will allow to determine which conditions improve the effectiveness of certain treatments and which don't. Big data analysis will reveal patterns and connections that will vastly improve most human activities. But it will also create very detailed profiles for all of us, including information that we'd rather keep private. Will big data make privacy obsolete, or will it bring transparency, accountability, and progress?
There we go. Okay, so what I really wanted to kind of talk about here is this idea of a digital footprint. You know, we all own cell phones, computers, we have GPS in our cars. Do we really know what's being tracked and what isn't? Have you guys ever thought of like every time you're buying something or logging into like a gaming console, that data is somewhere, right? And so this is a really cool graphic that I found about how much data is being generated every minute, right? So you have things on here where it's like Facebook, in 60 seconds there's 1 million logins, and like Snapchat, there's 2.1 million Snapchats that are created every second. So we are living in a world where a lot of the data generation is coming from us.
Yeah, and so, you know, IBM itself, you know, on our own mainframes, there's a ton of data that goes through our systems. And we could give an entire lecture on that, but we're gonna not do that today. We'll let your professors do that. So right now, you know, our team, you know, has a whole process to looking at the model life cycle that includes, you know, the phases of organizing, analyze, collecting that data, and then infusing that data back into the actual mainframe to create products and applications. And so our team right now is currently focused on that first part of the process of how do our clients collect and utilize their Z data, and how can we deliver those products that can take advantage of our great platform.
Yep. So I think the next slide, we're gonna take some real use cases and we're gonna just kind of like talk through them. So, you know, we all enjoy eating fruits and vegetables, right? And we all like picking flowers and seeing the spring blossom. Well, bees are really important to that process. Things like apples, watermelons, and other fruit are all done because we have pollination. And so right now, bees are endangered because they are more susceptible to pesticide, insecticide, and we're actually on a brink right now of losing our honeybees. So what does that mean, right? Bees generate almost $20 billion in the agriculture industry, and we're about to lose this. And on top of that, bees are the biggest influencers on why we have fruits and vegetables. So to ensure that we continue this whole pollination, we, not us in IBM, but people in the world created these robotic bees that they put little strips of like, kind of just like fabric on the undersides, and they use video analytics to detect flowers, and they go and they sit and rub on those flowers before moving and going to another flower. And so in this use case, we're really looking at, you know, video analytics. We're looking at classifying the right type, you know, classifying the right types of images, as well as GPS location. You know, where are these bees? You can't just send them out and not know where they are, right? So GPS and really cool cameras. You get really, really cool pictures when you do this.
Yeah, and this is a technology that I believe Microsoft is working on developing. And as Kelly pointed out, you know, bees are declining, so what are we going to do to ensure that our agricultural system doesn't completely collapse because of this? So I'm going to talk about something a little bit more dark. So let's talk about serial killers. So, you know, how many of you guys have done like the 23andMe or like Ancestry like .com thing? Yeah, I see a few hands in the room. So, you know, there's like this whole like, oh, they're keeping our data and like using it in malicious ways. But I'm going to talk about a case in which all of this data that is generated from those types of sites and, you know, subscriptions and, you know, tests is actually doing a good thing. So has anyone heard of the Golden State serial killer? See a few hands, yes. So if you haven't heard of this case, This has been a cold case for almost 30 years, and the Golden State serial killer was linked to a lot of murders and burglaries along the California coast. And he was finally captured and arrested in April of 2018. So they actually used the data from these, genetics websites to actually link back to him and find out that it was actually a 72-year-old retired cop who was from California. So the detective on this case actually submitted evidence from cases and from the crime scenes, and they got back the samples, cross-referenced it with additional details from other cases until they narrowed it down to this person. And it was all because his family members or distinct relatives had submitted this genetic DNA to some of these websites. So this is an example in which data generation is actually a really good thing. This program has actually led to the solving of an additional 59 cold cases. So this is a really good thing. It's impacting because if you think of the families of these victims, like, it's really nice that they get resolution and closure, even if it's 30 years later.
So, Chef Watson, I have so many times looked into my fridge and it's like, what do I have to do with these things that are in front of me? With Chef Watson, they actually partnered with Bon Appetit and created an app where you can literally put in all of the ingredients that you have in your fridge, your cupboards, whatever, and it will spit out like possible recipes for you to try. This, to me, was one of those things where IBM was like, this is a problem that we as like individuals have, where we're just like curious as to like, how should we be cooking our food? But this also solves a bigger world problem of food waste. I don't know how to put that any better. Yeah. Food waste. In 2010, it was approximated that 133 billion pounds of food and $161 billion worth of food had been thrown out. And so we're hoping with this, it would help us be a little bit more conscious and save a little bit more money.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And so the last use case is more of a fun one. This isn't necessarily solving, world hunger or anything, or catching serial killers. But has anyone heard of this song, Not Easy by Alex da Kid? Probably not, no? Okay. So this song came out in 2016, and AI was used to actually create the lyrics and the music for this song. So the artist on the track actually used Watson Beat, which is a technology where they fed in a bunch of songs, poems, news articles that related to like love and heartbreak, and the technology actually spit out some sort of conclusions of like what are the most like sounds popular sounds associated with songs, what are the most common words that were being used in this, and they actually use that as an inspiration to create the music and also create the lyrics. So fun fact, this only has 3 lines of lyrics that just repeat over and over again. And according to Watson Beat, that actually created a really great song and hit the charts back in 2017. So
I think it was like number 4
or something on like the Billboard charts in like rock-ish area. So it's kind of like a fun one where AI isn't necessarily something, it really helps with like our everyday, but it is also something that you can use in a fun way.
So natural language processing and audio analytics went into
Tone
this.
Analyzer API was used for this as well.
So, what does this all mean? Does this mean that you have to be technical in order to do all of this?
No, I'm not technical.
So, all of this really just creates more opportunity and career growth for what you guys can do in the future, right? All of these use cases span across all the different types of industries.
Yeah, and in the video it said like AI is going to take over your job, which is like what everyone says, but that's not necessarily true. It's really going to enhance the way that we do job, and it's really going to redefine what it means to have certain careers. It's not necessarily going to replace your professors or the people working at IBM even.
Right.
Yeah.
And
next slide.
yeah.
So become involved, technical or not. I am not technical, and yet I am influencing the AI technology that we are developing at IBM. But I have to work with these technical folks to ensure that any insights that come from my client calls actually get translated into actionable products.
And I have to make sure that we are always consistently thinking about our clients and customers, because this journey that we're taking with AI is not just, this data scientists and like the super smart architects. You know, we do need the designers, we do need the sales, we do need the offering management that liaise like kind of like what is the development team doing to what is common in the marketplace now. And so we kind of just threw up a couple of like what is kind of like hot jobs right now for like when you guys are starting to graduate. If you guys have any questions on these, we can probably try and like answer them quickly. Okay.
Also, lunch is coming. So yeah. So again, don't have to be technical. I know most of you in this room are, but also keep in mind that it's not just solely about the technology. If you're developing something that is not based in a real client need, then what's the point? You've just created something that no one's going to use, and then no one's actually going to adopt. So it's important to work with these roles, and so it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship.
Yep. Yeah. So we threw on here a couple of learn more things, but there's this book out there, it's called The Master Algorithm. You know, I was recommended a lot. Bill Gates recommended a lot. One of the quotes that really resonates with me is the quote, "If it exists, the master algorithm can derive all knowledge in the world, past, present, and future, from data. Inventing it would be one of the greatest achievements in the history of science." And kind of just to like debunk that a little bit, what it's really saying is that we are all a part of this master algorithm, right? And you know, just if we want to just be a part of the journey, if we're just like in for the ride, I can buy my Hue lights and set it to make my house smart. I can do that, but I can also be the pioneer who's driving these changes. You know, maybe no one would have thought that bees was a big deal, but the farmers in the agricultural industry do think that they're a big deal. They're $40 billion worth of their, you know, industry. And so little things like this really does affect it. But it all starts with kind of like what Jeff was saying at the beginning, with an idea, right? And following through with that idea.
And, you know, being along for that journey and really looking at a problem and trying to solve it. We also threw in some additional like references or things that I like. For those non-technical folks, the Explained series on Netflix about data was really helpful. And The Great Hack is just interesting. It talks about the Cambridge Analytica scandal with Facebook, which is always good to know. Yeah, so basically the takeaway you should get from this talk is...
We're going to give you the takeaway.
We're just going to give it to you. You're not going to guess it. Just let AI enhance your environment. And it's important to just note that, you know, you're able to opt in and opt out of these places that you can contribute your data to, right? But you can also be a part of that journey and also defining that journey, because it's important that in the age of AI, we have to make sure that we don't create anything that could be used in a malicious way. So that's also a counterpart to this as well. Yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Yeah.
I guess one of the questions I have, and I don't know that there's any answer to this, but I think it's a reality, is that, and I'll use an example, when Henry Ford, who did not invent the automobile, but he was one of the early adopters, and he figured out how to mass produce them, okay? I wonder if he pictured the kind of world that we live in now, where there are 300 million automotive vehicles here in the United States, and in China it's expected that the billionth automobile will roll off the assembly line sometime in the next 10 years. That's 3 times the number of automobiles that we have here in the United States. What kind of world will we have, and what sort of problems has that engendered that Henry Ford could never have, in his wildest dreams, anticipated? And so as we, I guess, rolling forward, saying in 2019, as we anticipate all the wonderful things we can do with AI, what things are we fostering that we just have no idea what's going to unleash on the world 100 years from now?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something really important to consider. In the design world, you know, we're really looking at, you know, how could this go potentially wrong? You know, if we were to dream this up in the future, 20, 30, 40 years from now, what would that look like?
And I would submit that we have no idea.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh, no.
Probably not.
I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah, my development team, we're pretty much using a lot of open source stuff. So we have Spark, Anaconda, we're using Python, and Java and R, and so we're really trying to keep up and adapt with what is coming. But honestly, what the end line, finish line goal is, you got to ask the students in the classroom, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be driving that.
And even they are early adopters.
Yeah, I agree. one of the biggest things that I thought was kind of like a side tangent, but something that was really interesting to me was this whole idea of AI on quantum, right? When I was talking to a DE about this, he was telling me how like quantum 10 years ago was fictional. Like it was not even like a real thing. Like we all were working towards this idea of quantum, but no one really had that finger on it, right? And now IBM is going to come out with some quantum stuff that is going to be really exciting in the future. So.
Well, it's already there. IBM has published the first textbook on how to learn quantum computing.
Yeah.
And you can rent out, I guess it's for free, you can rent out time on any one of 11 IBM quantum computers now to learn.
There's a trial
regular
base
textbook.
that you can run on, yeah.
It's all for free, so just, how do you, what's the, you know the website you go to?
Quantum Experience.
Qiskit, right?
Yep, that's the Python-based framework.
And we'll be talking about that in like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really amazing what has come and what is to come, right? And so we're kind of just making sure right now our strategy is the right strategy moving forward. So incorporating all of like the open source stuff, like making sure that our platform is modern. Yeah.
You guys talked about AI and how it was used to create a song by feeding it information about popular stuff like poems and things like that. So I was thinking, could you do the same thing by using AI and feeding it information about stocks to predict?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Upload pictures of a winning stock and then a losing stock.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Would that be in any way violating AI? Or like laws of any kind?
I don't believe so. Why would it? There's.
It seems kind of like if you could nail it right, it seems kind of crazy that you can predict if a stock is going to go up or down. It sounds stupid to be true.
Honestly, a lot of people do that now, and everyone has their own algorithm that they like try and enhance, right? So you take all of the historical data that you can have, you funnel it into some sort, you train it, right, into some sort of algorithm, and then you start feeding it information. So these are like all the different nodes that you're that you get put in. I think the stock market is so interesting. I actually dabble in Bitcoins and cryptocurrency, but it's so interesting because people actually do try to perfect their own algorithms. And because the stock market is such a diverse, elusive, like it's so not stable that like I don't think anyone can perfect it. And if you can perfect it, let me know. I'll jump right over. Yeah, because that's the right way of thinking about it. But no, I don't think it conflicts with any of the laws of AI. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else?
What kind of backgrounds would work well in the technical area for students coming out with degrees if they were interested in this area?
Yeah, so we threw up some of the technical stuff up here, but really, you know, being motivated to learn and being motivated to be adaptable, and you know, knowing that coming out of college you might not be using the same programming languages as what you're being required to use at work is super important. So, I mean, I came out as a computer scientist working in like assembly like languages. So I learned, you know, Java and like JavaScript and C and all these like cool languages, Python, and I ended up coding in assembler. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's really, really important for everyone here to understand the foundation, because all the different languages just kind of build on top of each other. The same logic is the same logic that you would need in any language, right? And so really you can, as a computer scientist, you can, or a software engineer or a computer engineer, you can look at any of these jobs and really just be adaptable to those jobs and what it needs. Does that answer your question? Anyone else?
Are you typically using DB2 for storing large volumes of information?
So,
Take it away, Kelly.
She told me, don't get her started.
Yeah, DB2 is one of our biggest databases that we use. We also have IMS and BSAM data. Yeah, I know, on our mainframes. being proficient and in understanding DB2 is pretty important. And I say that's a hot skill that gets picked up very quickly. We do still use it, a lot of it. It's a big line on our bar chart. Anything else?
Cool, thanks guys.